come on in, grab a chair. There's some up there. We will probably end up, around there. But again, having a reference and understanding as to the changes and kind of what we're talking about with regards to the law enforcement thing in particular, where until about 5 years ago, it was pretty static. It's like I said, it was really, I don't want to say a handshake and a nod type of stuff, or even informal, but it really kind of was. I wasn't involved with it back then, but the documentation and stuff shows, and I know fairly well previous Sheriff Wolfinger, and I paid attention, to what was going on in the elections and stuff like that since I moved here and the like. But for the most part, it was a rather informal process. And what's going on here and why you see these massive jumps that we'll talk about really occurred with the significant wave, if you want to call it that, in the last 5 years. Compared to, people have been coming for decades and the like. And the people who born and raised here, been here for generations, have always, more of them, man, these people from, when I came, it was the same thing, these people. And when I came here, Ramsey Road, where am I? Ramsey Road, at the highway, at the freeway, was 1 lane each way. Okay, skinny little 1-lane road once you got over the bridge. There was nothing. Coeur d'Alene Place, Lake City High School, there was nothing. And I came in here, and I remember when I first got here, and I drove around and go, oh, it's all farmland, open space. The average home, average was $82,000, and this is 1993, whenever that was, 23. Okay, yeah, and even then the people were agitated with the changes that were coming and the traffic. I'm a kid. Yeah, you could get when I first moved here. The first place I lived was, where those towers on Front are across the street from the McCune Park? Big high Monty Miller's towers over there by Coeur d'Alene Library. I lived at 615 Front Avenue. Paid $650 to rent that little house there. That's now where the towers are. I'm looking out my window and there's the lake. I brought my jet ski with me and stuff. And I'm in heaven. I'm looking, beautiful lake, beautiful here, whatever. And I could get from there to Lancaster 5 minutes, ish. And so that there's just so much change that unless you've experienced it, it's hard to really understand why there's a lot of the agitation about it. A couple more minutes. So if I can real quick, those who don't know or haven't figured it out, I'm Ed DePriest. If we could kind of quickly go around the room and just introduce yourself, maybe.
I'm Stephen Williams in Broadmoor.
Hi, Steve.
James Fair, Hayden.
Okay. Hi.
Angela Fair, Hayden.
Hi. Come on in.
John Waco, Hayden.
Hi.
Dave Drexler, Hayden.
Okay.
Laurel Cardenas, Hayden.
Okay.
Arnold Turner, Hayden.
Okay.
Jeff Coder, Hayden.
Yep.
Mark Martinez, Hayden.
Okay.
Linda Cross, Hayden.
Okay.
Frederick Spokane.
Didn't you read them? Didn't you read it? This is for people who live and pay taxes in the city of Hayden. You have to leave.
I looked at your piece, I said, I better.
Yeah.
Hillary Van Olson, Hayden.
Down Boston, maybe.
Debbie Longston, Hayden.
Longston, Hayden.
Colton White, Hayden.
Cal Freitas, Hayden.
Silent fly in the wall, Hayden.
Everybody know who that is back there?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan Owsley, Hayden County.
Connie Wilson, Hayden. Sue Edwards, Hayden.
Alexander Hayden.
Enter and sign in, please. No. Jennifer, what was that? What's my line from way back when? The black and whites? You are, ma'am?
Barbara Todd, Hayden.
Mark Hunt.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome all. Thank you for coming tonight. I think I can keep this. Okay. How many of you have been following the Hayden law enforcement contract negotiation issues that have really been occurring in the last 6 months, probably? Okay. Did everybody, how many really aren't aware of what's happening? Raise your hand. It might be easier to see that way. Because everybody in here is kind of, is hopefully pretty well aware of what's been going on. So I'm gonna, the purpose of this, really, is to, my main point that I'm gonna emphasize repeatedly here, is that whether the city stays with the sheriff or ends up going to its own police department, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not a done deal, okay, type of things, it's highly likely that your property taxes are going to increase, quite possibly substantially, or you're going to see your level of service continue to decline. It's one of those things that's going to go this way. Either you're going to pay whatever the community determines it wants to pay for law enforcement. If they want to, let's say they wanted to stay where we are right now, and we'll get into it more, but just coming in and
There's one.
there's a seat here, and we lost 3 patrol deputies and paid up basically $250,000 than we paid last year. That's the direction that needs to be addressed. Okay, so however it ends up working out, unfortunately, what you pay for law enforcement on your property tax is most likely going to continue to increase. Well, boy, come on in. Grab a few chairs. There's 1, 2. There's, if you can grab. Thank you for helping with that, you guys. So I just want to. You say, well, why? What caused all this increase all of a sudden? Well, the county, well, let me back up a step. In the past, the sheriff used to negotiate with the city. Services, costs, and what have you. How many of you remember a few years ago when we voted to increase the base tax to get 6 additional deputies, which brought us up to 10, and you voted to increase the base tax $543,000. Well, that was a process of negotiation with Sheriff Norris. He came to our meetings, council meetings and workshops and stuff like that, and he gave us options, basically. Several options. At the time we had 4 deputies and we're paying $402,000, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. He gave us the option of 6.5 deputies for $572, 7.5 deputies for $660,000, 9.5 deputies, which is basically what we ended up getting. And that at the time was $826,000. He gave us 11.5, 12.5, and so on, all the way up to, I think, even 28. Okay. If you were around or listened to any of those at the time, the sheriff, and he still does, recommends that the city have about 25 deputies in order to staff as he believes the city needs to be staffed. Well, anybody have a calculator on them? Well, no, I mean really, does anybody have a calculator? Because okay, here's what the current contract is: $1,193,933. Okay, now, does everybody have that?
Can you do it once?
$1,193,933.
Any, like, change, 33 cents?
There may be. I don't know if we have to pay excise tax or something like that on. Now, for that, we are getting 7 deputies. We're getting 5 patrol and 1 detective and 1 animal. So the simple way of what's our cost per deputy? $175.42 per deputy. Now multiply that by 25. The sheriff's recommendation. Anybody come up with a number?
Yeah, $4,264,000
$4,264,000.
and $46.
$46 or cents?
$46.43.
42.
No, I
There
knew.
you go. There you go. You get some change now. Yeah, I don't know if you can get it back. I don't know if you give them a whole dollar, they'll give you change. Especially if they've done away with pennies nowadays. So how do you get those, whatever it is, 3 cents to get to the nickel? What do you guys think about that?
So the question I have is where did he come up with this number of 25? You know?
Well, there are several metrics out there
Yeah.
that law enforcement and people, law enforcement use, and it's something to the effect of 1.8 per thousand, or they have various different metrics that if you do, and I was reading an article. Come on in, please, and have a seat. God, you're making me jump around now. The city has put out, okay, has put out RFPs, requests for proposals, for a consultant an independent, impartial consultant to evaluate whether or not the city's, what are the costs of the sheriff and the city to start up its own and all of that. And what was it? Did you see that, Tom? Yeah? 287 pages. Did you see it already? 287-page proposal. Okay, and the other company was like 28 pages, but they basically say the same thing. And the one talked about the metrics that they use, and they emphasize that per thousand metric is not valid. It's basically because this area up here, 1,000 per thousand people, is going to be a lot different than Los Angeles per thousand.
Sure.
Your crime per thousand, in depending on the neighborhood you're in, anybody from Southern California or any metropolitan area knows, urbanization in an area like that is probably going to have a lot higher crime than urbanization up here.
Sure.
I've said this a lot. I don't believe we have we're getting people coming in here, but we don't have the criminal element.
Right.
It's not moving in. Other areas like that, yeah, you're going to have a lot of criminal element. So how you base, your service and what you need.
Right.
If you ask me, you're really going to look at your statistics, what type of crime. You're making me jump around. Had an order to go in, but anyway.
Well,
That's
would have brought the pizza. We don't.
You'd be eating and wouldn't be paying attention. Come on, there's chairs, if you want to grab a couple chairs, and maybe bring them over there. So I'm gonna have to jump around. But that's okay, what type of crime do you have? Do we have murders, rapes, home invasions? Are you getting mugged in the parking lot? People carjacking you? That kind of stuff? No. We get these monthly reports, some of you have seen them, of the calls for service for the sheriff. Top 10 calls for service, and these hold pretty true. And the latest one I have is for November. Animal problems, 66. Citizen assist. Don't really know what that means. There's all kinds of citizen assist. You have to help somebody walk across the sidewalk, or did somebody fall and hurt themselves, or whatever it is, but there were 57 rather. Traffic accidents, 39. Suspicious. Don't know what that is. I mean, was a deputy driving down and some guy's wearing a dark hoodie walking along, and yeah, you'd want him to stop and say, hey bud, what's up? Okay, I don't know what's suspicious for him. Welfare checks, 27. Falls, 24. Alarms, 20. Warrant service, 9. Health and welfare, 8. 9/11 hang-up, 6. Now I can understand that. You get a 9/11 hang-up, you want to check it out. Okay? But now let's go to year-to-date as of November. Aggravated assault, 16. Arson, 0. Auto burglary, 6. Burglary non-residential, 8. Burglary residential, 6. Rape, 2. Homicide, 0. Robbery, 4. Theft, 112. Where do you want to venture most of those occurred? And probably super ones. Okay, those, when they usually have it down here. Hotspots, Walmart, 45 calls, super 125. Vehicle theft, 3. Assaults, 70. Vandalism, 26. So that pretty much holds true month to month to month. So when you talk about what level of service do you need? You know, do we need 3 deputies per shift, 4 deputies, you know, crawling the city looking for,
Yeah.
you know, or, you know, do you need 1 per shift trying to cover the, what are we, 12 square miles? Or something like that? How do you determine that? How do you determine how much you need? So these consultants, and they specialize in law enforcement. I mean, that's 287, and a very comprehensive and explanation. They do a thorough job to hopefully compare and all that. So,
And
yeah,
are these figures all for within the city of Hayden?
those are yes, the sheriff's Hayden monthly activity report. Okay, we'll get into other accountability reporting here in a bit. Yeah.
If I could share some contrast just for the fun of it, and forgive me from having been from California, but I'm a few.
Whereabouts?
You guys have,
Whereabouts?
I grew up in the Pasadena,
Oh,
Sierra
yeah.
Madre, Arcadia area. Okay?
Whittier, La Mirada.
Okay, and I'm talking about a little town that was next to us called Sierra Madre.
Yeah.
And it was a little town where Humphrey Bogart grew up and all this kind of stuff. And it's got its crime and everything, and I like the way you're comparing your apples with your oranges for density. That was probably the least crime-ridden of the area in San Gabriel Valley down there. And I have some numbers for you for the fun of it. The police budget, 2025, was $2 million.
For Sierra Madre?
Sierra Madre, a town of 13,000, we're 16. I just want to give us some idea, maybe this will support your thoughts, okay? 1 chief, 1 captain, 4 sergeants, 2 corporals, and 9 patrolmen, and 7 police cars, okay? $2 million.
Yep.
And that's in California pay scales, not here, okay? So I'm trying to offer some contrast to you guys, okay?
Yeah.
And this was, I mean, Hayden to me is a wonder, and I know there's people that have been disturbed by the influx of us that have come, okay? For me, I'm a political refugee as well as an economic refugee, okay?
That's most people.
And
There you go.
dearly,
You know,
dearly love Idaho, and I wanted to be an Idahoan, and I wanted to do things the way we do it, and I brag constantly.
did you bring guns with you?
No, I got them when I got here because they wouldn't let me have them there. So anyway, the point that was interesting is that we don't, like you said, have the graffiti, the trash, the theft, okay? A lot of the misbehavior, the homeless problems, a lot of these things. And so it's interesting that when you bring this discussion up, I think that they're being a little heavy on the scale when they're talking about the manpower that they're trying to propose. Okay, for this, just showing you guys the contrast.
Sure.
This is 2025, okay? And I just consulted with my brother, who's former law enforcement California, on the phone before I came, and we were working on these numbers. Okay, so I would have something to share with you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I hope that'll give you some perspective.
Yeah.
So you're on track, as I see it, when you compare the density factor of crime per capita. Okay, and that has to be weighed when you're considering how we consider how much help we're going to need.
Now, counter element to that. Anybody ever gone on ride-along? How many of you are former law enforcement? Let's try that question. Okay. How many of you have ever gone on ride-alongs with law enforcement? Locally.
Locally.
Okay, that's fine. I encourage everybody, if you can.
We can ask as a
Yeah,
citizen.
call the sheriff, Under Sheriff Nelson usually arranged it for me, type of thing. I went on ride-alongs on all shifts. I've been going on ride-alongs with law enforcement since I was this tall. My dad was LA County Sheriff back before I was born. You know, family, LA County Sheriff, LAPD, other municipality PDs. I've had law enforcement in my family. My dad retired as the chief deputy of the Los Angeles County Superior Court. So I've been involved with law enforcement and what have you all my life, type of thing. But anyways, the issue is this. Yeah, you're right about crime, no. But do you want to be that, in this case, deputy or officer, who at any time of day, but especially let's say 10 o'clock at night, you get a domestic violence call. Do you want to go up to that door alone? Any other type of crime, robbery or whatever, suspicious, you know, whatever, do you want to go to that call alone? I wouldn't, you know. So here's what would happen, and it happened several times when I'd go on these ride-alongs, and especially in the evenings. The deputy in town, depending on where we were, it might take 5 minutes to get there, okay? we would sit at times for 20 minutes down the street waiting for backup. Who knows what's happening inside that home, that business, whatever the call may be, in those 20 minutes that the deputy officer, whatever it is sitting there waiting. So, and this was about the time where we had the increase. And I advocated for 2 deputies on duty in the city at all times, specifically for that reason. Okay? And we were told, oh yeah, this is going to get you 2 deputies for the most part. You know, maybe not in the 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning type of shift, but you'd have 2 deputies throughout. Well, what we're coming to find out was that in fact, yeah, we weren't getting 2 deputies at all times. Okay, but anyways, that's a cost, but you have to weigh it. Do you want, it's officer safety, as well as you're in that house when someone's breaking into it, or whatever the call may be, and do you want to be that person who has to depend on less than 2 people in the community? And that again, though, there goes your costs. Okay. So anyways, let me rattle some numbers off here and a few things, and bear with me and then ask questions type of thing, if you will, please. Okay, so how come it's going up so much? Well, in 2020, the Kootenai County Sheriff budget was $35.845 million. The current 26 fiscal year budget is $54 million. So it's gone up 18 plus million, a 51% increase in 5 years. That's their budget. Sheriff Norris' salary in 2020 was $91,398. His salary, I think it was even a couple years ago, and it is now $145,516. A 60% increase in 5 years. Captains, lieutenants, sergeants, patrol, they averaged a 31% increase over those periods. Now, I'll tell you what, yes, we want quality people, okay? And if you don't pay, chances are you're going to lose them. Okay? The county commissioners, okay? 2020, their salary was $75,044. Current salary is $108,992. County commissioners, a 45% increase in 5 years. Okay? The Hayden contract in 2022 was $402,354 for basically four deputies. 25,000 of that went to dispatch, and then there was an additional one-time $300,000 payment by the city to hire 3 deputies. The city said, okay, because we're going to need them. 2024 went up to $917,000 for basically 9 deputies, 1 school resource, and the city paid $160,000 for 2 patrol cars. 2025 it went up to $954,000 for 9 deputies, 1 school resource, and we paid $190,000 for 2 patrol cars. Like I said, the new contract is now $193,932 for 3 less patrol deputies. Okay, 7 total. And that's 3. That's not 5 per shift. It's not 5 per day. It's 5 total to schedule over 3 shifts a day, 21 shifts per week. You can't do it. Okay, you can't. You've got 5 deputies. How do you schedule 21 shifts a week with 5 deputies? They work, I believe they work 10-hour shifts. In addition, Hayden citizens pay approximately $700,000 into the patrol line of the Justice Fund. Justice Fund covers all kinds of stuff. Jail, prosecutor, probation, juvenile services. But there's a patrol line. And the citizens pay approximately $700,000 into that patrol line. And Commissioner Matari said that his calculation was that that amount paid for the equivalent of 3.8 deputies. Okay, where are they on the schedule? Okay, let's see. I believe there's also a line item for animal control and dispatch that you can pay and do for the Justice Fund. So here is the new schedule that the city was provided recently with our 5 deputies. Sunday through Wednesday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. you're going to get 1 in the city. 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. you're going to get 1. Wednesday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., 1. 4 p.m. to 3 a.m., 1. 3 p.m. to 1 a.m., 1. So between 3 p.m. and 3 a.m., you'll have 2 in the city. Okay? Skip that. Okay. I'll come back to that. Now let's get to it now. A big issue with this, people say, well, God, jump around. There's an ideology. I don't think we should be determining what we do based on ideology. There's a population who says, well, the sheriff is elected by the people and is thus accountable to the people. A police chief is appointed by the mayor and the council. It's just my opinions here. The mayor and the council are also elected every 4 years by the people, just as a sheriff is elected every 4 years by the people. If a sheriff doesn't manage the department or do whatever those people, he can be voted out. If the mayor and council don't manage the police department like the people want, they can be voted out. Okay, but ideology, in my opinion, is not the reason to be looking at how you run it. Until about, again, I keep going back this 5 years ago, 5-year number. I never heard this argument that the sheriff's elected by the people. Never heard it before then. Again, it's this ideology coming into it. So, what the new contract is, well, again, I have to back up. The sheriff is there to enforce the laws. A police chief is there to enforce the laws, not to adjudicate, not to determine which ones he or she may or may not enforce or not. The sheriff signs a contract with the city, and in that contract it says, we'll enforce laws, ordinances, codes, etc. If the city directs a sheriff to enforce a city ordinance, and he says, nah, I don't think it's legal or constitutional, I'm going to want him, I'm going to want a discussion of breach of contract. Really. He didn't get to pick and choose, he or she. The sheriff is not a judge, okay? And we had an incident on election day where something related to that type of thing happened. Okay, the mayor got a phone call from the sheriff. I wasn't in on it, but my understanding is that he basically said, nah, you guys requested that we enforce this electioneering ordinance, and I'm not gonna, I think my deputy is in error to do it. It's a long-standing electioneering ordinance, okay, that we asked the deputy, the city administrator asked the deputy to go out to the individual and say, hey, here, you know the rules, okay, and shortly thereafter the sheriff called the mayor. I don't know, but it's those type of things. I don't want to, I don't want that to happen. Sheriff doesn't have a right to pick and choose. So that's one of the things. Yes, I want to go to a PD. Everybody says, oh, you just have an agenda. Yes, I do, because of a lot of these things that I've seen happening, plus this massive increase in costs, okay, that they brought on us. So,
Ed, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Those police cars that basically Hayden paid for,
Yeah.
two recently, and I think 2 before that, I went to a workshop when you guys were all talking
Yeah.
a couple months ago, and I know those vehicles came up. Do any of them belong to us if we were?
We pay for them, and it's in the contract. If we terminate, we get them back.
Oh, good. So we would have 4 vehicles?
There are
We'd have 5.
We'd have 5.
Currently, we'd have 5 vehicles. Yes, right.
If it's within 5 years.
Yeah, it's in, we're talking 2 years, 3 years right now. So if we terminate the contract within the next couple of years, we'd get those cars back. Okay? Yes.
Did you do anything on population increase in the last 5 years?
What do you mean, did I do anything?
Did you come up with any numbers, what it was 5 years ago and what it is now?
To be honest with you, no, but we can guesstimate. Is that a factor? Yeah. That's and we talked a little bit about it, I think, before you came in.
Okay.
Okay, that's what has precipitated a lot of what's happening now. Why the massive increases in costs and stuff like that is related to it. That's okay. What's happened in the last 5 years? Exact numbers related to how many more people are here now than were here 5 years ago.
And cutting back on deputies, cutting
Uh-huh.
back on service,
But now?
and cutting back on service.
Right.
She's my neighbor.
Right.
So Ed, just, like, you mentioned a little bit about, constitutional sheriff and he's elected. And,
Yeah.
Okay. And until recently, you said nobody even mentioned that, right? Well, okay. I think the demographics of the last 5 years or so, most of the people that came here are expats.
Yep.
That, myself included.
Yep.
Okay, I got away from a communist government in Washington State, okay? And so I'm very keen on aware of all this stuff.
Understandable.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Understandable.
Yeah.
It's not that I 100% understand. And please don't take this as I hope it's not going to sound. As I know it's going to sound, okay? I came out of LA 32 years ago, and I got out of there right after the riots. Okay, and I saw what was going on. I know exactly why so many, and I don't blame the people who've come here. The problem that I, and you hear other long-time residents have is, let's see if I can follow this scenario. No, anybody knows me knows I'm gonna tell you the truth, how I feel, and a lot of people don't like me because I'm pretty blunt, straight, whatever, harsh, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and I don't mean to be mean, nasty, or whatever with what I say, but it's what I experience as fact. Okay, the people the expats who escaped, who fled from DEI, CRT, BLM, high taxes, porn, and all that other stuff. I get it. Where you came from, probably happening. You looked around and you went, wow, that's a great place to go. It has Christian and family values. It's where I want to go. Am I mistaken? Okay. How did it get that way? How did it get to the point where so many people looked at it and go, I want to live there? It didn't happen overnight. What happened was the people who governed the community for decades, if not generations, set up this community for that way. And what's happening, in a lot of people's opinion, is not a lot, but a very vocal, a number of recent migrants have basically come in, and if there's any military, I hope this isn't offensive that people said it, they brought their PTSD with them from where they came. You know, they've experienced all this stuff, and they come here. And again, about 5 years ago is when there's porn in the libraries, and they're indoctrinating NIC and K through 12, and there's DEI and CRT, and you have to elect us because we're the only ones who can fix it. You people, you establishment who've been here, you're now rhinos. You're liberals, okay? You're the things that they've been called. Well, they're the ones who made this place what brought you here. And that's where a lot of the animosity comes from, okay? I'm a retired, non-union high school teacher. I've been in most of the schools around here for many, many years, okay? Are there liberal teachers? Yeah, okay? Are there some who at times might, out of stupidity, allow themselves to express their personal feelings? Yeah, but most know that if you're in a classroom and you start pushing whatever it is, the chances are that kid's going to go home and say, and many of you, and if my kid came and said, you know what the teacher did and said today and this and that, I'd be in the principal, if not the superintendent's office the next day. And if all this DEI, porn, CRT, blah, 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 that every alleging is so rampant for happening, you'd have parents line up around the school board meeting night and lines out the door wanting to, and we've seen it in Virginia and places like that, in front of the school boards. You don't have that. Okay? You have isolated incidents. You had a kid apparently, at Coeur d'Alene High School last year or so, who decided he was gonna be a girl. And they made a huge deal because he wanted to go in there. I don't want him, I understand, I have one kid, okay? And if anybody has kids and grandkids or whatever, you know, kids see something and it's gonna get them attention, they're gonna push things, okay? So, but anyways, that's kind of, again, I getting off track and I don't mean to.
I intended to get you sidetracked.
Are you subversive in here? Who's here to, all right. Okay, the accountability and control. For several years now, part of the contract has been the sheriff will provide activity reports. Okay, not call reports, but reports where we can see that the deputy, the city-funded deputy in the city-funded car is within the city limits, okay? Not going into Hayden Lake or Dalton Gardens or elsewhere, okay? That we can track what they're doing. Unit X is in the city here and there at this and that time. Here's the calls and everything that went on, okay? We haven't been getting those reports. We can't give them to you, okay, is what they've been telling us. And another one that Councilman Roeder especially has been talking about for 2 years is the city will fund for trackers, GPS trackers. You geofence the boundaries and you put the trackers on vehicles, and Verizon will provide the equipment, and it's $200 per year per vehicle. So the city will pay $1,000 to put these trackers on these vehicles, and it will you can extract data that shows the movements and what. At one point in time, the sheriff said that's a non-starter and non-negotiable and a deal breaker to do that. Anybody else saying why?
No.
Okay, yes.
Well, I have a question that's leading. I'm a demographer by education, so statistics, okay, and I'm already looking at this thing saying to myself, if we're going to make a proper decision on this future arrangement, we need to trend where the criminal or the, shall we say, the public needs are going. Let's put it in those terms, okay? And these people, to shut that off, that first thing I do is get them by the throat, because we need that information. We need it as far back as we can get it, and we can trend it as far forward as possible so that we can develop some sort of a exponential growth factor with respect to the expansion and growth of the city.
That's the point of...
Or we can't figure out what we're going to pay for, because I think they're cavitational right now. I think that they're charging way too much for what little they're giving you, and they don't want to tell you that they're not giving you your money's worth.
There you go.
We're putting in $1, we're getting a nickel back.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how I see it right now. But I think the most vital thing is that you get statistics of what kind of calls are being serviced, what kind of activity, so we can trend it. We need to trend it.
Okay. And that's you hit it right there. That's what it's been about. Okay, we get no stats, and the sheriff refuses to put trackers on a car. Well, why? Okay, so here's the explanation we usually get. Well, that's not an accurate thing because, the deputies have to go to court for 3 hours. Or they have to take a detainee to jail. Hey, that's fine. If the tracker shows that Unit X was out of the boundaries for 2 hours, you go and say, okay, the tracker shows Unit X was on December 15th at 3 p.m. or whatever was gone. They can go to their logs or whatever and say, yeah, Unit X was taking a Hayden detainee or going to court related to a Hayden case, and we go fine.
But that's still necessary information. So
that's what I'm saying.
Because the thing is, you need to know the density of performance. Okay? Like we would in a normal operating system of waste to revenue. You need to know how much time is being spent in these activities. If he's on utility and he's dropping people to jail, fine, then he's offline. We can see how many man hours are actually being spent to give us our money's worth as opposed to utility and service.
Come on up here. You're making my point. Everybody says, oh, you got it out for the sheriff, you've got it out for this and that. No, you're hitting it right on the head. We deserve to know and be able to account for it. And here's another thing. Well, why do you want a police department? Because I know that we can then tell all of you where every dime of your taxpayer dollar goes. Every dime of your Hayden City taxpayer dollar on the law enforcement contract will be spent in the city. Okay? We have a problem budgeting.
Just one real quick one. I'm trying not to.
Yeah, Ray, quick, sure. Okay.
Okay.
So just to add to your statement, it's actually was written in the agreement that we have for the last 3 years prior that they were going to supply that. In the agreement, which Norris is the one that started that agreement. And they have never.
They haven't honored it.
Have never honored it. And this year on the 26 contract, they changed the wording to say that they're going to give us crime reports, which totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, what we really need is, what you're saying is, we need genuine statistics. How much time the feet are on the ground, and what kind of service they're having to
Well,
perform.
let me touch on that then, and this might rub some people, especially those who think I've got it out for the sheriff. If you watch the meeting, and it's on YouTube or the city channel, or whatever that is, of December 19th, when we begrudgingly approved signing the $1,193 contract, I said that the only reason I'm signing it or agreeing to it is because I had a conversation along with the city administrator. And I said to Commissioner Matari, well, and he says, I want to get you these numbers. I think software's my thing and all that. And I said, well, how long is reasonable before we can expect to get this data? And he said, if you aren't getting it within 90 days, then there's a problem. So I said, okay. And what I said when I begrudgingly seconded or voted yes or whatever it was, that I'll give them 90 days. But if we don't get it in 90 days, I'm going to strongly advocate that we give the county 60 days of termination. Okay? Because we've been, as you said, it's multiple years now, and we've been getting kicked down the street and whatever. Yeah.
Excuse me. I spent a lot of years doing federal contracting, service-related contracting like this. That should be right in the RFP.
You bet.
Data will be delivered at the 90-day point. If not, here's the consequence for it.
Yeah.
Here's the positive
The
incentive,
penalties,
and both
absolutely.
and negative.
Yep.
Well, that's where I stand on it, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's on the record.
But
and-
since you've already signed the contract, it's going to be he said, she said.
No, it's video. It's on video.
Well, even
And I get what you're
even
saying.
still, it's not
I- Contractual stuff should be in writing and
Yeah.
signed. I agree 100% with what you're saying. Okay? And then right along with this, how many of you have heard that the other cities are subsidizing Hayden's law enforcement? Anybody heard that? That the county, well, this is one thing, if you've watched the past Board of Commissioner meetings, there's one individual who came up almost every meeting, and same guy, and talked about, and Commissioner Matari and the sheriff are putting this out there. Hayden is excessively drawing, and the outlying areas are subsidizing Hayden, and that's why this 100% cost, they call it a 100% cost reimbursement model, where they are basically going through every item that they can attach to service, and they claim that Hayden is basically 40 to 60% of their service load. So overhead, they calculate 40 to 60% of their overhead into this per deputy cost to come up with this, okay? So, but anyways, they're claiming that all these areas are subsidizing us. So I was at a Board of Commissioner meeting a couple months ago now probably, and they were discussing the Hayden contract. Commissioner Matari asked the county finance director, Brandy Falcon, what happens if the Hayden contract falls through? What effect will it have on the county sheriff budget? I'm going to paraphrase here, but basically it was, she says, well, this current year we would have to go in our fund balance, which is the savings account, and we could, deal with it. But next year, there would have to be, I don't know if she said changes or adjustments or what, okay? Well, if they're subsidizing us and we pull our money out, why do they have to go into savings to continue operations? And if we are 40 to 60, I'm going to say 50%, let's split down the middle. If we're 50% of their service load, you would think they kind of want the city to bail. And if they did lose 50% of their service overhead load, whatever it is, wouldn't you think they would then have the ability to significantly reduce the budget and significantly reduce the amount that the county taxpayers pay for law enforcement? Okay, but there's just a disconnect here. How can they be subsidizing us and then saying that Brandy Falcon, they said it, that if the Hayden contract is terminated, that they will have to go into their savings for this year to fund, to replace the money that Hayden is no longer paying, and that if they aren't getting the money next year, that there will have to be some staffing, probably reductions. Okay, I don't know. That just, I'm not an economist, and don't claim to be that astute with that kind of stuff, but still I kind of say, well, wait a minute, if you're subsidizing us, then losing our money wouldn't mean that you would have to go into savings to then pay for your service.
So are we subsidizing them?
Yeah, that's more where it's going.
Yeah,
Looks more like they're getting a little cream in the bottom.
I said, who is subsidizing whom?
No, it sounds like they're coming up on the higher end of the deal.
Yeah, especially the check.
Yeah, they are.
Has the city put numbers together that say if we start our own police department?
There we go, okay,
How do we start? Where do we go?
I'll try and, that's part of what this consultant is about. But let me try and go there, and that is an extremely complex equation, okay? But here's what you say. The startup costs are, and someone on social media says, the startup costs were millions of dollars. And your taxes are going to go way up, okay? Well, what a lot of people don't know is that the city recently, last year or so, purchased the old Lakes Highway District facility out on Ramsey, out there by the airport. And they're about 5 acres just connected to it, just south of it, okay? A very large facility. Offices, covered space for vehicles and things like that. There's plenty of room there for a police station, for vehicles and offices and things like that. That's a huge, you don't have to build one. And that's when people think, oh, you have to build a station, you have to build this and that. Well, there's probably the largest capital expenditure probably right there, starting from ground level if you don't have it. We have the five vehicles to start with, okay? Right there, significant startup costs. There are grants available for law enforcement startups, okay? So can I give you any exact numbers of, well, right now it would cost X? No, because that's kind of what the consultant's going to be doing, and gathering all these numbers together and putting them together. But let me give you a little bit of an idea here with related to, oh, your taxes are going to skyrocket. Yeah, I'm saying your taxes are going to go up either way, bless you. Okay, whatever way it goes, but just as some examples here. Fiscal year 26, which is what we're in now, our law enforcement budget, okay, we budgeted and was on the record of $1.049 million. We had to take $95,000 from a vehicle and add it to that 1.049, and we had to take money from our savings to get up to the 1.193 number. Okay, but on the budget, okay, we had it at 1.049 plus the 95 for the vehicle. So the levy, the current levy rate per $100,000 is 75.526 per 100,000. So if you have a $625,000 home, you take your $125 exemption, so the round numbers here, your taxable value is $500,000. You're paying $377.63 to the city. Okay, a $700,000 taxable value, $850 total. You're paying $528.68, and if you have a 1.125 or $1 million taxable, you're paying $755.26. If, let's just use this number. Let's say that a police department costs $1 million more than the sheriff. Okay, $1 million increase based on current situation.
Per year?
Yeah, per year. Okay. that $500,000 taxable value will cost you $12 a month more, or $145 a year. Okay, if it costs $1 million more, yeah.
That's based on a static factor, that's not a growth factor.
Right, well, right, that's what
Okay, because there is gonna be, whether
There
we
is.
like it or not, we're gonna end up adding a few more residents, you know, over time.
Yeah.
Okay, and if we factor that into it, that'll carry some of the amortization on this.
Well, that's part of the problem, and it has to do with Hayden's levy rate. Everybody says, well, growth should pay, growth is not paying for growth, and that's part of the problem. Hayden historically has had by far the lowest levy rate around. You look at it and compare it to Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene, it is and I've got some numbers here that I'll maybe get to in a minute. That's part of the problem. Even if there's all these people are coming in here, it should. Well, the demand for services and the inflationary cost of those services is not keeping up with what the levy rate of those new people are.
But that's why we need the statistics ongoing, so we can start to project the factors.
Right.
Okay, what we're getting for our money, how much the crime is increasing, or the need.
All the stats.
All these stats need to be there so we can make that decision.
Yep. Okay. So I don't know where was it. If it's $1 million more, that's $700,000 taxable value, or $825,000 house, is $17 a month, or $204 a year. That $1 million mansion that you have. Nowadays, $1 million isn't a mansion anymore, is it? When we were kids, man, $1 million is, oh! Yeah. That $1 million taxable value is going to cost you $24 a month or $290 a year more. Okay? And people are, I'm going to use the term that, if you watch the Board of Commissioner meeting 2 or 3 days ago, they were talking, Brandy again, the finance director, was asking the board if the board wanted her to calculate into the factors the insurance and some other overhead costs that weren't calculated into this current contract, okay, for support staff, or I forget exactly. They're more, okay, I believe that what's going to happen here, I've been saying this for a while since this whole thing started coming up, they're not done this. Okay, I think they know they need Hayden. Okay, but I believe what they're trying to do is, in my opinion only, okay, they're going to take Hayden up to a level that's just low enough to the point where you can say, oh man, it's so much more expensive to go with them. But when you're talking $4 or $5 million, $3, $4, $5 million, and you've got a difference of 500,000, $1 million, shall I say, amortized out, spread out. It's really, any $12 to $24 to $36 or whatever it is, type of thing. But I think they're going to continue to take us up and get us to the point where they don't think that we'll make the changeover. Okay, could be 100% wrong.
So real quick, this million extra that you're just kind of hypothesizing on, where's that put our service level at, do you think, versus where we are now?
Well, that's just it. There's no denying that we're going to have to pay competitive wages. Okay, and our overhead with their 100% reimbursement, that tells me it's basically 100% pass-through. Okay, what it's costing them for gasoline and insurance and bullets and training and all of these things that they factor in, it's going to cost us the same thing. So roughly, if we were to get right now what we got last year. Oh, I'm sorry. Where's my mark? Good? Okay. If we were to have 10 deputy model like we had last year, it would basically $1.8 million. The county charges us. Right now, Rathdrum, which is probably the closest model to us, and they have their own PD. And numbers that the county provided us related to the Rathdrum Police Department, their 2025 law enforcement budget was $2.9 million for 17 sworn officers.
What's the population up there? Is it 9,000?
No, it's probably around 12,000.
Okay.
Rathdrum is really growing. That
Okay.
old prairie, that whole area Rathdrum's really growing. But 2.9, they have 17 sworn, that includes the chief, lieutenants, sergeants, patrol, detectives, stuff like that. So they're basically, as I understand it, a department of about 17 right now.
And what's our budget?
2025 LE budget, $2.9 million.
The 25-26
Okay, so that wasn't
budget
very
is
different than-
3.8 million.
Now, here's the number the county gave me.
I just got this from the Rathdrum website.
What does that include? Does that
It
include?
shows law enforcement is 3.8229.
2026.
Yes, 25, 26.
So they bounced theirs up from 25 to
So
how
that's a
much?
huge difference.
The
Three-
two-
It's
yeah,
almost
does that include-
3.83.
Hey, does that include their, hang on a minute. Does that, hang on, where's they have it on here? They have their law enforcement budget plus their justice fund contribution?
I'm just looking at where it says expenses by department, law enforcement, basically 3.83.
Right. Okay, I don't, because on here they have,
Is that fiscal
But
year
it's con-
26?
You're talking about the comparisons with the increase in budgets, and so this is the 25.
What is it again?
You were talking about the percentage of increases in various budgets?
Yeah,
This is the 25-26 approved budget for the city of Rathdrum.
so it's their 26 fiscal year.
But if it
Sure,
does
fiscal year's lined
Oh,
up?
it's going,
the
yeah,
justice
24,
fund,
25.
that's a big part of the
That's-
justice.
yeah.
No, that's, justice fund is
It's
totally
good to
separate.
show lower numbers, but the reality is the numbers
Is
bigger.
yours fiscal year?
But they're
Fiscal year
also
25
three times
is what we have right now. So that's their,
Which
and
one?
and we have all just basically approved our
The office
fiscal year
staff.
26 budgets a few months ago. Yeah. And what was that number, 3.8, did you say?
Basically 3.83.
Yeah,
Yeah, we get a
3.83,
lot more for their money.
yeah.
No, they're getting a lot more
So
for
I'm
their
not,
money,
sa-
even
I'm
if
not
they're
saying
paying
that we
that.
wouldn't be in that neighborhood. I'm not saying that. Okay, because,
But look what they're getting for their money. I'm sure, when you look at the staffing compared to what we're just getting basic ground coverage compared to what they're doing. I mean, I know it's more, but
But
I
what do
mean,
we need?
well, that would be the next question, but the point being, is that if I look at what the guy's talking about $4 million for a staff of people to help us, okay, and you're getting 3.83 there, and that sounds like a lot more department. I'm just showing apples to apples, okay? So in other words, we're getting a little slippage
can I
here.
ask a question here? And you bring up the staffing, and it gets back to what we talked about at the beginning. How much do we need? Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, you look at our crime, and we don't need much. Okay, but look at the second half of it. When we have to consider officer safety and the safety of people who have a phone call and have to have an officer or deputy waiting for backup. Okay, do you want to pay the minimal amount? And I'm not either way on this. Okay, I'm just trying to gather input on this. Do you want to pay for that minimal service? How much do we need? Well, we only really need, because our crime shows this, okay? Versus, do you want to pay to have the additional deputies available for backup, so a deputy isn't sitting waiting 20 minutes for backup, but who knows what is happening. That's where you have to weigh it, because I can almost guarantee it. You don't want to be the house where you've got a deputy sitting down the street waiting for backup. And if something happens, tragic happens in the city, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody sued the city because they knew that there was the possibility of this happening, but they were looking at their costs and going on the skinny, and it resulted in somebody dying because the sheriff or whoever was sitting down the street waiting for backup.
So what happens
now? This is a scale.
And it's cold-hearted, but that's what risk management is all about.
Yeah.
You just go to it and you say, yeah, we might lose $1 million in litigation, however, the overall savings over the course of time,
Yep.
it's worth paying the $1 million.
Whether the trade-off is there or not. Yep.
But if you stay with KCSO, then guess what? You've got all the backup you need.
No, I'm just telling you, we sat in a sheriff car for 20 minutes multiple times waiting for backup.
So, Ed,
Yeah.
okay, a couple of years ago, there was an incident on Reed Road, just north of Hayden Avenue.
That was a bad one.
Okay, well, cops pulled over some lady, she had drugs or something, and, okay, you only need like maybe one, trying to get her out of the car. Well, they had 12 police cars there.
Yeah.
What the hell, I understand.
I don't know. I'm
So, I
still,
mean, that's a waste of resources right there, but it's only maybe 2 cop cars, I could understand that.
Yeah.
To get a lady out of the car,
I,
you know?
I get it.
Did they come from other jurisdictions?
I don't.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, my guess is, okay, I saw a hand back there first, then here. Did I see a hand back there? Okay, yeah.
You said that it was 175.2 per deputy for Hayden.
It was for Hayden, if you take the 1.193933 divided by the 7 deputies, it came out to 170,542 per.
Okay, and if you do for Rathdrum, 3.8 by the 17 deputies, you get 223. So it does sound like Hayden is getting a better deal.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but again, it's gonna come down to, what do you guys wanna pay for it? Okay, that's gonna be the question. Do you want, we're gonna have to raise, we can only raise the taxes 3% a month, a year, without a vote of the people. And people say, well, you didn't take the 3%. You know how much 3% of the budget is? About $68,000. What percent of that 170,000 per deputy is $68,000? Bottom line is, okay, if the people want more than what we're getting now, and even at this amount, 1.193, if we stay with it next year, we're still going to have to go to the ballot to get the base tax increase, okay? Because I'm not going to continue to take money out of reserve. That's unsustainable. Okay. Question over here.
You were talking about officer safety. When they, are you saying that every patrol car needs to have 2 officers in it, or are you saying that?
No, two separate patrol cars.
So in other words, you're just saying we need more wheels on the ground to get to places?
Yeah, we need, I believe, and just in my opinion from experience and whatever it is, that we, number one, we had people able to cover more than if we had 2 vehicles in it, but at 10 o'clock at night, hopefully, they aren't so busy, or you get a call, one could say, I'm on my way, and the other one said, I'm your backup coming too. And said, no, I don't think we need 2 officers or 2 deputy patrol units, 2 in a unit. Yeah.
Do you have the numbers for Spirit Lake by any chance?
No, I do not.
They're
Ed,
a
she
much
has-
smaller municipality and they have their own police.
Well, they're much smaller.
They're tiny,
Yeah,
200.
They are.
Ed, you have a question back here.
Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm just trying to find something here.
So I came not knowing which I would like better, is to continue with the sheriff's department or to have our own police department.
Yeah.
I'm retired law enforcement, so I have just a little experience in that thought.
Yeah.
I'm well versed in what's happened since 2022 with our safety committee, of which I was a part.
The city public safety group?
Yep.
Okay.
And when we contracted for 8 or 9 deputies.
Right.
And over the last year, I've heard the arguments that the sheriff is not able to provide statistics because their data collection doesn't collect the information that the questions have come from the city council, like how many officers are working at one particular time, where are they within the city, in what sector area, how much time is spent on this type of a call. They can give some information, but they say they're unable to capture a lot of information that the city council wants.
Right.
And so if we went with the sheriff's department, we don't know what the county supervisors are going to up the cost again. I mean, they doubled it this last year.
It's like I said, watch their meeting the other day, they're going to.
So we've got this huge unknown with financials and we're at the county supervisor's whim. I mean, they get to decide what we do. And they're not going to have as much interest in us as our police department does. I didn't realize that I was going to be in favor of perhaps having our own police department, but I think you've brought up some really good ideas that even if we spend $1 million more than the current supervisor's contract, the county supervisor's contract, we are still ahead of the game for our own people, yes, we're gonna have additional taxes, but we're gonna have them anyway when the Board of Supervisor ups their price again.
Right.
So, you've brought up some really good,
You
good
touched on a
thoughts.
couple of key points that I said already. Yeah, if we pay this money, we know that number one, every dime's going to the City of Hayden.
Yeah.
Okay, you talked about, what was the last, you just said something about, we know here it was. The police department is solely focused on the City of Hayden. Unlike the sheriff, who has the City of Hayden and numerous
Right, the rest of the county.
outside the county.
Well, apparently not if we're doing 60%.
Our PD is ours. Okay, and here's the thing here. Well, how many times and it used to be mutual aid until the last couple of years when they started doing this new changeover. And I'm not arguing that we were getting a great deal. And I'm not arguing that law enforcement isn't expensive, okay? But it used to basically be if we needed help, somebody came in. If they needed help, somebody went out. And nobody really gave a poop. Okay? Now this, and I'm going to call it nickel and diming, is what it feels like. Well, if you're going to nickel and dime us that way, then I'm going to nickel and dime you wanting exact accountability. If a Hayden-funded deputy goes into Hayden Lake or Dalton Gardens and gives service there, then I want a reimbursement for it. Okay?
Yep.
And they can't give us statistics.
I think,
I know.
I could be 100% wrong, maybe, but my gut tells me that's part of the reason why we don't get this. And they can do the accountability because other jurisdictions, some who were even on the Public Safety Commission, who were involved with those jurisdictions, say the spillman can provide it. Okay? Yeah.
So that's where I was gonna go. My understanding, and I don't have all the facts with me, but the program that the sheriffs use is the same program that the Coeur d'Alene police use, and the Coeur d'Alene police can generate all the stats that we've been asking.
So we're told.
That's right.
And so if Coeur d'Alene Police Department can generate the stats using the same program, it's just basically the sheriffs are saying no.
Yeah.
They can do it, they just don't want it. And that's just my opinion. And that's why I think we should get out from under them.
That's part of the
Because
problem.
it's not gonna change.
But many of you come from larger metropolitan areas. My recollection of Southern California was that for the most part, most incorporated municipalities had their own PDs, and the sheriff had the unincorporated areas, the jails and the bailiffs.
Yep.
Okay? You know, every city of size, Rathdrum, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, heck, even Pend Oreille and Bonners Ferry, Spirit Lake, most incorporators have their own PD, and the sheriff, okay, take care of the county. He claims that they don't have, that Hayden takes up so much of his resources that he can't serve the people down in Harrison or over here or over there. Well, if we, like most other metro areas, have a PD and they have a PD and everybody else has a PD, then that frees up resources for the county sheriff to take care of the unincorporated county area. What was it? I was in a meeting the other night that some others were at, and God, I lost my train of thought on what it was that they. Oh, the sheriff says, well, Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, and Rathdrum really subsidize Hayden because they all pay into the Justice Fund, and that's true. Okay, and they don't get much sheriff service. Why?
Because they have their own.
They have their own PDs. Okay, so yeah, he's correct in that the amount that those people pay into the Justice Fund supports the entire county operation, not just Hayden. Okay, and I also could be 100% wrong, but I suspect, let's just say, Hayden goes its own way. Will the Justice Fund amount increase that you pay? Because they lose the $1 million. They're saying that I believe they have 56 deputies on staff, 55, and they talk about not being fully staffed. They claim to be adequately staffed, is a term that was used the other night, if I'm not mistaken, but they are not what they want to be fully staffed. Okay? So if they decide to fully staff, where's that money coming from? Like everything else, folks, everybody's tapped out. I don't care who you are, really. Yeah, there's some people who are, doing very well, but most average residents are tapped out. They're getting sucked from you and you and you and this, and everybody is having to keep up with inflation. Everybody is having to increase their staff's wages. Healthcare costs. Should we not provide healthcare costs to the staff? What's one of the first things they're going to do if you say, hey guys, you're not going to get any healthcare? What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to look for another job. Okay? And I'll tell you something about the Hayden staff in that city hall. They are overworked, okay, understaffed. I've gone in there in the weekends, they're in there. 6, 7 o'clock at night, they're in there. They are loyal, committed employees who bust their tails for this city. And yes, we have increased their salaries of late to try and bring them up to a commensurate level with other cities of our size. And they deserve it. And anybody in here who was doing their job would expect the same. Okay? So we've got about probably 10 minutes where they try and kick us out. Another thing, people say, well, cut the budget to pay for law enforcement. Take from here to pay the law enforcement. Has anybody really looked at the Hayden budget?
Pretty tight.
Where are you going to cut?
It's tight.
You want to cut from snow plowing? Don't need it this year, but you want to cut from road maintenance, infrastructure maintenance? Okay? You want to cut from the recreation department, which I believe serves about 5,000 children and adults in the city each year? You want to cut the recreation? Because that's what I've heard the most from a certain group.
Cut the art budget.
Let's see. How much is the art budget?
I don't know, but I mean, you know.
Somewhere.
Okay. Jeff, hang on a minute. I'm not, no, okay, do me a favor. Go look at the art budget.
Okay.
Okay, and tell me how much of a dent that would put in law enforcement. Seriously, the art commission budget.
They get donations mostly.
They are almost self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. They're doing rummage sales and stuff. Okay.
But just the point is, they say people who, and again, I understand. Before I really got involved in this, I didn't look at the budget and I didn't pay attention. And I went off a lot of gut, and I've been educated quite. Anybody who knew me before I was elected knew that I was one of those people at the podium talking about growth and just do this, well just do that, well just do this. Okay? Well, I've since learned about state statutes and the Local Land Use Planning Act and what you can legally do and what you can't. Okay, I'd like to cut growth, shut the gate, all that other stuff, but you can't. Okay, there's certain things, and it's the same thing with the budget. Okay, people just, that's the easy thing. Cut the budget. What do you want to cut? Show me. You tell me where you want to cut. Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You mentioned that we already have a building, a nice sizable building that we could start.
Up on Ramsey, yeah, north of Wyoming.
And we have 5 police cars?
Yeah.
So have we done a line-by-line comparison as to what each officer is going to cost, what the office staff is going to cost? Every line-by-line item compared to what we're paying now to the county, so that we really have a good financial
That is what this consultant, 287 pages from one and whatever from the other, both saying, that's what they are going to do.
So have they completed that?
No, we just got the proposal from them today for us to choose. It'll come before, first it's going to come, yeah, you got it. I think I know what you're saying. It's going to take 6 to 8 months, okay? First thing it's going to come before is the Public Safety Commission, and then they're going to make a recommendation to the council. And okay, so, and then the council is going to, it's going to be put on the agenda, and this and that, this and that. So we're probably talking a couple months before we can even really consider and make a decision, and it's going to take 6 to 8 months to do. So we're talking December before it may be completed.
So when
These are the wheels of bureaucracy.
So if we decide to have our own police department, what is our time frame to make that decision?
We've got a couple of years, basically. Probably, I've been saying 1 to 2 years.
Okay, so
And that
we'll
would
just
keep
go
the
ahead.
cars, right?
We'll just go ahead and keep paying the county whatever.
Well,
they want.
no. Let me backtrack here a minute. Back step. There are alternative options. okay?
There's competitors to the county.
Yeah, there are other service providers who may on temporary basis provide contractual services. Okay, and people say, well, you do that, okay, and whatever happens, we aren't losing the sheriff.
No.
The sheriff, still, we pay into the justice fund. The patrol line item of the justice fund supposedly, according to Mr. Matari, pays for 3.8 deputies. So they're still statutorily required to provide service, and it would be just like Post Falls or any other entity. You'd have whoever is the primary service provider, but the sheriff, statutorily required to kind of assist and backfill and stuff like that. So if we at some point, let's just go a death nail here, maybe if that's the right word. We don't get the reports we're required and asking. And we say, okay, we're giving you 60 days. Okay, you've had 2 years plus or whatever the heck it is to give us these, and we aren't getting what we should be getting. We're going to give you 60 days termination. Within that 60 days, developing the relationship with the alternative provider, okay, I've been told, can be done, where that entity would then fill for 18 months to 2 years or whatever the heck it might be, type of thing. People say, oh, I'm sure that will end up going out is, the council has left the city without law enforcement. No, you're going to have law enforcement, and it'll probably be very similar to what we're getting from the sheriff. You know, we'll probably go to whoever the entity would be and say, I'd say we got $1.193 million, whatever it breaks down on a monthly basis, type of thing. What can you give us for it? And I would venture that'd be pretty close to what the sheriff's given us, in addition to the then Justice Fund statutory requirement that the sheriff is required to do, and the fact that we don't have these massive crime. You know, some people talk like, well, if you don't have the sheriff, you think the criminals are looking? Hey, Hayden only got 5 cops, man. Let's go in there and raid and pillage.
Good luck with that.
Well, yeah, see, that right there is the thing. Most crooks know that people up here are armed. Okay,
It's helpful.
you climb into somebody's window, you probably aren't walking out. You know, you try to. When I was in LA, there were carjackings going on. Okay, I started carrying one of those. It's illegal. At a fanny pack, 9mm and fanny pack, because a good friend of mine got carjacked one time. I got attacked with a baseball bat one afternoon, sitting in my car backing out of a restaurant. Yeah, so I carried down there, but people up here carry, and the crooks know it. Yeah.
One thing I've learned over the last few years is that everybody can make statements on numbers, and until you verify it directly.
Absolutely.
And I mean, to the gentleman from Sierra Madre, I mean, certainly, I mean no disrespect to you at all, but the police budget for Sierra Madre is $5.225 million. It's on page 47 of 58 of the budget for 2020, for 2025, 2026. Again,
I was only talking about the patrol actual feet on the ground. I wasn't talking about the overall.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, because I was trying to compare the apples with the apples for the boots on the ground, not the administration.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure.
Okay, so I extracted that number.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that. So I don't know.
Right.
I don't know you. I know you. I mean, you're the mayor. I've never heard you
So
speak.
you don't know me? Everybody
No.
knows me.
Oh, yeah, I'm the mayor. Okay. I really don't know you. See?
I'm the king.
Yeah.
You know, I want control.
No. So, anyways, what I was going to. The point is that I've never heard you speak. I've never met you. I will attest to that. Don't know this man.
Yeah.
And you know, I really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
What's very clear is you got a bias against.
I do.
Sheriff. Okay. And so
not against the sheriff individually in particular.
It comes across that way.
I understand that.
I'm not begrudging you.
No, I understand that.
I mean, we all have opinions, we
Yeah.
all have preferences and everything else
Yeah.
like that. I am unaware of any shortage of services of law enforcement in Hayden. Just the gentleman here said, trying to get a lady out of a car, there are 12 squad cars here. You see, there's nothing here on domestic disturbance. The closest thing is residential burglaries, 6 of them in the entire year of 2025. So waiting in a car for a backup, I don't know how often that's gonna be, but it sounds to me like if the sheriff's, if the budget with the sheriff, or the contract with the sheriff, is that an annual, is it an annual, re-signed annually, is it like for 3 years?
It's annual.
Okay, well, it seems to me that as we are considered growth, if we want to say, okay, we need 15, 17, 18 patrolmen on this year, and then we find out we don't need them, then it's a lot easier to go back down to 12 or whatever we do need than if we had our own staff. Because if we're going to have our own police enforcement, I'm thinking that's going to require dispatchers, and you're going to have at least 3 8-hour shifts. I don't know if
That's
that
a county
includes-
system.
Yeah,
I don't
know.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're gonna need jail. If we don't have jail, you're gonna.
We don't know.
At least holding.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Holding.
This is
Well,
what I'm
we would
asking.
do with Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene, they deliver to the county jail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so you're gonna need administrative, you're gonna need HR, you're gonna need a lot of other things like that. So it seems to me, if we really want to scale until the area maybe settles down in population, it would be a lot easier and a lot less expensive to dial up on any given year and then dial that back than if we had to hire some people on and say, oh, we don't need 3 of you guys after all, you're fired, you know. So it seems to me that it would be a lot less expensive to.
Well, as I understand with everything you're saying, but also the bias that I have with the sheriff, I supported the sheriff quite a bit, and if anybody remembers when we had that vote to increase, I supported it heavily, okay? There have been some incidents that have occurred in the last year or so that have shaken my trust in the sheriff, okay? Some incidents have occurred where, wait a minute, this isn't, you know, that's where my bias is. And a lot of other people will say, that's okay, thank you.
Is that enough to warrant doing a wholesale changeover, how our law enforcement is done here? I mean, and are those incidents, I don't know, are they?
They are related
all the
to,
citizens?
they are related to the, and I kind of touched on them at the beginning with relationship to, they all kind of root in, the sheriff isn't the master of Kootenai County. He is not the last word, okay? He signs a contract with the city to enforce laws, codes, and ordinances.
But you want the mayor and the city council to be the master?
No, it's the
Well,
same thing. You're elected, you appoint a police chief, he's expected to enforce the laws, codes, and ordinances. And if the police chief says, nah, I'm not gonna enforce that because I don't think it's legal or constitutional, then you can remove the chief.
So you're proposing that if Hayden gets our own police department, that the police chief would be elected and not
No,
appointed?
the chiefs aren't elected.
Well, that's what I was
Chiefs are
saying.
appointed,
That's what I was saying.
but the council are elected,
Yeah.
and the mayor elected. And if
So-
the council mayor appointed chief who doesn't manage the law enforcement the way that people want, then they vote out the council and the mayor and put in a council and mayor who will hire a chief, yes.
That's
I
not true.
misunderstand. I thought, okay, so they gave us they increased our budget
Yeah.
without talking to us.
Well, what happened was we budgeted and presented, and they said, no, for that 1.049, we're only gonna give you, I think at the time, it was 4 deputies. And so we went back and, whoa, what? Well, let's take 95,000 from a car, instead of a car, and that took it up to 1.44. And they said, well, for 1.1, it's gonna cost you 1.193 to get that additional. Okay, plus the detective and the animal control. Okay, so that's what, and they know we're up against the wall. What are we gonna do? We couldn't just bail on them right there. We weren't prepared, type of thing. So we said, okay, well, we'll give you the car money, and we'll take whatever it was out of the savings to bring it up to 1.193.
And then it's going to go up again.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna have inflationary costs, and when they calculate administrative, they calculate all these things that people are talking about, you know, these line item things. Those, if you see their spreadsheet of what they calculate to cut their overhead, they calculate that stuff into the cost that they're charging us. So, you know, yes, the city would have to pay administrative, the city would have to pay training, the city would have to pay recruitment, the city would have to pay but they are calculating that into their cost that they charge us. They call it 100% reimbursement model. Okay, we're running short real quick.
Well, I was just gonna say that very point. We're already paying that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the fact that I've gone to a lot of city council meetings in Hayden, and the city has repeatedly asked for the accountability. It's our money.
Yeah.
It's not just Ed's money, it's not our mayor's money, it's not the sheriff's money, it's our money. And I wanna know how it's spent.
Right.
And the reason why we went down to 5 officers is because that's all we can afford. It's not that we said, oh, there's not very much crime, let's just go to 5 officers. We went to 5 officers because what the sheriff is charging, that's all we can afford. And they had to borrow and take it from other places just to get that, because the concern was, how as a council do we justify to our citizens that we used to be 10 and this year we're only 4 or 5? I don't know if the citizens want to pay for it, but I really appreciate that you take the time and energy to get out there and say, look, this is what we're dealing with. Very few people go to city council meetings. I've seen you guys there, and I appreciate that, you know, and a lot of people do try to go, but there's 10 people in the audience out of 16,000 people.
But you can watch online every single Tuesday.
That's true, and I don't mean to.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we've got a couple other people who want to say something. But this business about Ed wants control. I'm one of 4 council members and a mayor. Okay, I could be overruled 3-1 anytime. Okay, that type of thing. We all have our agendas. Okay, we all have directions we want to go. We all believe that this or that, and we get together and evaluate and deliberate and all of that. Okay, any other questions or comments?
One last thing I'd like to add in response to your rise and fall and they need help. We're not running a Ford plant, okay, where we don't need any hubcaps because we got plenty in from the last load. I think if we get the statistics that we require in order to make good decisions, because we're shooting in the dark right now, okay, we need those so that we can work out the scenarios of whether it's at a break-even point, cheaper to go with our own help, go with an alternative where we may actually use it as a breeder platform for our own people to ultimately take over our own department, or continue to subscribe to the county, okay? But above and beyond it all, we're talking without information until we get those people to produce stats so we can trend it all, or we can't make decisions.
Real quick, we'll have the video for today available. We'll send it to Ed and he can send it out to you guys, so reach out to him and he'll give it to you.
Thank you.
And then next time if he makes one, I'm willing to, both of us, to do a PowerPoint presentation so that you can see the stats that he's.
Oh, wow, thank you. I appreciate that very much also.
That'll be very helpful because I don't think this is about the sheriff. There's a lot of inconsistencies, there's things that don't make sense. We voted for him, we both did, and we support him, but we don't like that there's no accountability.
Exactly.
Anyway,
Okay, thank you, that's very much. Question?
More of a statement. I mean, we learn from our past mistakes. So some of this is, you're inheriting this problem.
Right.
So all I'm hearing is all the way back to 2000, maybe 2022.
Farther back than that, probably.
The Hayden program has been running since somewhere in 95, 93.
Yeah.
So my question is, at one point Hayden had their own police department and they disbanded it.
Way back.
And it didn't work then. So why would it work now to then? I don't know. We're not talking about history. Why is the program, we haven't heard anything of how did the Hayden program, which has been in existence for, 20-some years, it's changed over that time. Is that because of management of the city and the sheriff? Is it management of the county commissioners?
It's probably a combination of all these things.
So I guess my thing is why, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, why aren't we just fixing what we broke? We inherited broken parts.
Yeah.
Right? So why are we not looking at fixing our broken parts? Don't get it wrong. It may be a great point to have our own police department, but I don't want a Shoshone. I don't want a building that's not armored and secured. You gotta pay for computer programs for people. IT right now is off the charts. Health insurance goes up yearly.
Yep.
And then you gotta pay for a mechanic to fix the cars. There's a lot of costs here that you're gonna get through your research.
Well, again, and I have to reiterate it. All of those things that you listed are calculated into the cost from the county. It's not like we are, it's 100%, they changed their model. And some people have seen their sheets, their cost, their spreadsheets and stuff like that. They are calculating everything that they feel it costs to run the sheriff's department at a 40 to 60% overhead rate related to their costs. All of their costs related to
And I would
service.
give you that. That means we're only paying for half of all those costs.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spread out among all the
Well,
other.
that's the service level.
Technology.
That's of their cost for the entire county. And they're attributing 50% of their entire cost to us.
I mean, I just saw the county commissioner meeting the other day.
Yeah.
They're now up to like $500,000 just to update their camera system.
Yeah.
So if we
And I can
build our own.
assure you that if that camera system is applied to the city, then we will be charged our share of that camera increase. Okay, that's it. What'd you do to your knee, by the way?
I got it replaced.
Okay, any other, yeah,
Just a comment, I'm not sold either way or the other.
yeah.
But I share a distrust, not of the sheriff's department. I sat in a meeting where, after the Public Safety Commission, we entered the contracts for so many deputies. The council approved the funds. 2 or 3 meetings later, either the sheriff came back or the council members, they lived in that road, they told us they can't honor the contract. They can't provide that number of deputies. Right there and then, I said, what the heck is this? And then the statistics. I don't buy it.
Well, that's, see,
I
that's the whole,
Those kind of numbers, they're applying for grants, I almost bet you, they're required to grant. They've got to report to the state of Idaho, they report to the FBI.
Absolutely.
I believe fully those funds
Yep.
are available.
okay, folks, I just got the high sign, you may have seen it. I appreciate you all coming. This is not gonna happen overnight. Okay? Yes, there are strong this side, and obviously people in the middle, and as we get information, it will be disseminated out and stuff like that. If you could, please put your chairs stacked back up in the racks as you leave, please.